Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. We have all the Hearthstone Rise of Shadows cards now, and it's theorycrafting season. In this video, I'm going to take a brief look at the cards that Warrior has, then I'm going to take a look at the neutral cards that Warrior might be using, and then I have 5 theorycrafted Warrior decks for you. So what is Warrior going to look like in Rise of Shadows? Let's find out. First, the Warrior card set. There's support for Big Warrior, there's support for Bomb Warrior, some mech support, a little bit of rush support, and then a tiny bit of deal damage support. Bit of a mixed bag really. But what do these cards look like? Vicious Scrap Hound, 2 mana 2/2 mech, whenever this minion deals damage, gain that much armor. Okay, some potential survivability, but doesn't look too great. Then Sweeping Strikes. This is actually a pretty interesting card. 2 mana, give a minion also damages minions next to whomever this attacks. So combine this with rush minions and you can punch through some taunt walls. So there's some potential in this card. Then there's these Big Warrior cards, the Boom Reaver and Dimensional Reaper. Battlecry, summon a copy of a minion in your deck, give it rush, and summon 2 copies of a minion in your deck. I don't believe in these at all. I think this Big Warrior idea looks really weak. There is a bit of a change here because it used to be a recruit, so you used to actually pull the minions from your deck, and now you're summoning copies. But on the other hand, also all those recruit stuff is rotating out, so you can't combine them in a single deck. This, I think, is probably just wasted space. Then there is the Bomb Warrior team. Range Caliber, after your hero attacks, shuffle a bomb into your opponent's deck. Clockwork Goblin, Battlecry, shuffle a bomb into your opponent's deck. And Blastmaster Boom, summon boom bots for each bomb in your opponent's deck. So this bomb team, those 5 damage bombs, okay, they are potent. And there are ways for you to shuffle tons and tons and tons of bombs, because the Seafaring Bomber is still in standard, so there's 1 more bomb generator, then we have Augmented Elec, which can double the number of shuffled bombs, then you can bounce these, you can buff the Wrench Caliber, you can make really big booms. There is some potential in Bomb Warrior, but what I'm worried about is that in slow games, the opponent's going to have Archivist Elysiana, and they're just going to remove all the bombs from their deck, so is it really going to be enough pressure? But then you could also build this into some kind of a rush shell, which sounds a bit more interesting, just finish off with a big boom. So a team that has some potential, and there are also a couple of ways you can build the Bomb Warrior, so that's interesting, because you can build it in control or mid-range or even a pure aggro version. But I'm not sure if this Forced archetype is really going to be one of the best ones in the expansion, I doubt it. Then Warriors getting Dr. Boom Scheme, gain 1 armor upgrades each turn, probably one of the worst cards in the set. And interesting mech card, Omega Devastator, 4 mana 4/5 mech Battlecry. If you have 10 mana crystals, deal 10 damage to a minion. Very potential card for Control Warrior, really interesting, one of the best cards for Warrior probably in this set. And then there's Improve Morale, deal 1 damage if it survives at a Lackey. Warrior currently doesn't have anything special that they want to do with lackeys, so I'm not sure whether Improve Morale is a card that's going to see play. So overall, yeah, pretty mixed bag. But Control Warrior is getting 1 card, Rush Warrior is kind of getting 1 card, then there's this Big Warrior archetype, which I don't think is going to do anything, and then there's that Bomb Synergy, so there's some bits and pieces for Warrior. And of course, Warrior was one of the classes that's got to keep a lot of stuff, so Warrior already has a lot of good stuff. So there's potential to build quite a few Warrior decks in Rise of Shadows. Warrior's also getting some interesting support from the neutral cards. Archivist Elysiana, of course, a control deck staple. 8 mana 7/7 Battlecry, discover 5 cards, replace your deck with 2 copies of each. If you want to go to Fatigue, well, or take your opponent to Fatigue but not go there yourself, then Elysiana is of course your choice. Vargot, at the end of your turn, cast a spell you've cast this turn. Can do wonders with something like Omega Assembly, maybe Dragon Roar. Powerful card. Barista Lynchen, Battlecry, a copy of each of your other Battlecry minions to your hand. There are lots of Battlecry minions in Warrior, especially in Dragon Warrior, so there's some potential to see this in such decks. And then there's Hecklebot. 4 mana 3/8 mech taunt. Battlecry, your opponent summons a minion from the deck. So some minor potential for combo disruption. Potentially pretty good anti-aggro taunt. And it's a mech, warrior can really enjoy mechs. But maybe a bit of a tech card anyway. There's also a safer alternative if you want an early game taunt, which is the Proud Defender. 4 mana 2/6 taunt, add +2 attack while you have no other minions. So there's a couple of alternatives depending on the meta. Actually pretty good neutral support for warrior, able to support warrior in many endeavors. But then, let's look at the actual decks. And first up, I need to mention this, even though it's not a new deck. It's Megatron Warrior. This is my current rotation-proof Megatron Warrior list. A Megatron Warrior that I have been playing in Rastakhan's Rumble quite successfully too, so it's a fine deck. Warrior is one of the few classes whose Megatron combo remains completely intact. The Boom Ship pulling Malygos and Megatron, then inner raging them both and whirlwinding clears that board. The main problem for Megatron Warrior would be if something like Bomb Warrior becomes really popular, and then they shuffled all those bombs into your deck, and you have to draw through your entire deck in order to activate Megatron, and then you're taking all that bomb damage, so we'll see about that. The viability of the archetype is questionable, but the combo is there, and basically the toolkit is there if the meta is favorable enough for the deck. Then the big forced archetype of the expansion, Bomb Warrior. I actually built 2 Bomb Warrior lists. I also wrote about these for Hearthstone top decks in a bit more detail, by the way, you can find a link down in the description. But this one is the control variant. This is the version of Bomb Warrior that just wants to shuffle lots of bombs. Clockwork Goblin shuffles bombs, Wrench Caliber shuffles bombs, Seaphorium Bomber shuffles bombs, Augmented Ele helps you shuffle even more bombs. So you just shuffle and shuffle and shuffle, and then the opponent's deck will be full of bombs, and then they will play their Archivist Elysiana and take away all of those bombs that you have built there, which will suck a little bit. But luckily in this version you have your own Archivist, so you can fight them on even ground, even into fatigue. On the other hand, you might also be interested in a different approach to bombs, because I think this control approach has that weakness, that those bombs are going to get removed, and because you're not dealing a lot of damage otherwise, then a couple of bombs exploding doesn't matter. However, if you're hitting face already, then even 1 or 2 bombs exploding might actually matter. So Rush Warrior, I think Rush Warrior is actually quite likely to develop towards Rush Bomb Warrior. Just shuffling some bombs. How many bomb shufflers do you need? That's the big question. This variant includes the Clockwork Goblin and the Wrench Caliber. And there's ways to buff the Wrench Caliber, because there's Upgrade and there's Green Skin. So then you can Wrench Caliber and you can just keep hitting face and shuffling more bombs into the deck. You don't even need many bombs to explode, because your big payoff is already Blastmaster Boom. If you can get a couple of bombs into the deck, and you can Blastmaster Boom and get a number of boom bots, that's already a big payoff. But what is the right number of bomb generators? Like, do you even need Clockwork Goblin? Is it enough to just have the Wrench Caliber? These are some of the key questions about this deck. I have opted to go for this kind of mid-range build. It's not that fast, but that gives the bombs a little bit more time to be drawn. So you have a little bit more chance to get 5 or 10 damage from the bombs, and you can try to deal the rest with your minions. There's Grommash Hellscream in this deck with Cruel Taskmaster, so you have the option to go with Grom and buff that up. There's also 1 copy of Sweeping Strikes, because there's lots of rush minions in the deck, so you can do like Sweeping Strikes on Darius. That would be insane. If you can kill stuff, then Darius just starts growing. Or just use Sweeping Strikes to punch your way through a taunt wall. It would also be possible to build this even a bit faster and go with like Leroy and Blastmaster Boom as the 2 most expensive cards. I have not tried to build a list like that, but I have seen some of those around as well. I just think that the bombs are better suited for a little bit more mid-range approach, but we will only know for sure after testing. It's also worth noting that Control Warrior is not going anywhere. Control Warrior, Archivist Elysiana, counters bombs, counters Corrupted Blast from Hakar. This is a dragon control build, so using these good dragons, Roasters, Scorchers, Twilight Drakes, Ember Scale Drakes. And also because we're not limited to using Baku anymore, so we can use even cost cards, which opens up opportunities with Dragon Roar, getting some more dragons going, War Master Vaughn, you can double up your dragons. War Master Vaughn, if you have some Twilight Drakes in hand, that means that you're going to fill up your hand very easily, and then you can just play some Twilight Drakes. And in exchange to losing that superhero power, you do get some other tools as well. Stuff like Warpath, which is pretty good against tokens, and Weapons Project, which is pretty nice because it's both an early weapon for you that you can use to try to control the board, and it's weapon removal, so you can also take away opponents' valuable weapon and give them a small weapon in return. Even in a dragon build, I think that the core package of Dr. Boo, Mad Genius, Dino-Matic and Celiax is probably too good to replace. I think even a Dragon Warrior wants that much mechs anyway. But we'll see how we can optimize the list in the end. Anyway, Dragon Control Warrior looks like it's going to be just fine in the upcoming expansion, but it's not the only type of Control Warrior you can play. Even though cubes are going away and Daihon hatchlings are going away, so that kind of cube setup is no longer possible, but we got some new mechs, so Mech Control Warrior on the other hand seems very possible. And in this Mech Control Warrior build I'm using the new Omega Devastator, some nice endgame removal, Archivist Elysiana, of course if it's a control deck and you fear that you might face other control decks, then Elysiana is absolutely great. This build also uses Archmage Vargot, so that you can, for example, double up on your Omega assemblies, so you can get a ton of value from that. And I've chosen to include Hecklebot here as an early game taunt minion, but that is kind of a tech card choice. It's a mech, so it kind of fits the team, but Proud Defender could also be a perfectly viable alternative. It might even be better depending on the meta. Just a deck with a lot of mechs and a ton of mech value, and the ability to go to fatigue game as well. So overall, I think Warrior looks really interesting. You can play control type of warriors and you can play so many different control type of warriors. There's the mech control, there's the dragon control, there's the bomb control, so many different types of control warriors are available. And in addition to those, there's still the combo deck with Megatron Warrior, there's still the Rush Warrior, and maybe you can build even some kind of aggro list, even though I didn't build one for this video. So lots of interesting stuff that Warrior can do in Rise of Shadows, even without Baku the Moon Eater. This is the 7th class video I have made for Rise of Shadows. There's 2 more to go, so remember to check back and see what's in store for all the classes for the new expansion. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.